Okay.
Yeah.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see the sustainability diagram that we've been discussing. Can you see the diagram? Is that okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so could you just explain the diagram to us and talk us around some examples?
Yeah, this diagram we recently put together on the basis of how we've been working with clients on helping them make sustainability become part of their business and help working in a sustainable way to help grow your business on the basis of that. And what we've seen in the past is that most companies started thinking about sustainability from a very conservative perspective, which was all about managing risks. So you have to make sure your business, your products, your services are enough sustainable so that that you are meeting regulations and that you can stay in business, because governments put up more and more strict regulations for manufacturers and suppliers to do things and to be able to sell things. But we've seen companies going from a very risk-averse way of thinking to a more opportunity-oriented thinking. And one next level in this diagram is to look at sustainability as a way to enhance your profitability. That's still all about having lower costs for what you're doing. If you produce things with less water, which is also good for the environment, then it also brings less costs to your production process. It's still on the conservative side, it's still on avoiding issues rather than on the side of opportunities, but it's already about profitability. If you go up on the ladder of looking at sustainability, you can think about the brand opportunities that sustainability has. When you work in a more sustainable way, you can actually make that communicate that to your consumers in relation to what your brand is doing. So instead of being a large corporate company and talking mostly to your shareholders about you being more sustainable or having a more social responsible way of working, you can actually connect your way of working to the different brands. So there are, as we know, big manufacturers who have multiple various kinds of brands in food and beverage, for example. If you would have an individual story for every brand where you would do good for the planet, you can make your brand become more appealing to some consumers who would otherwise not regard your brand as a serious option. For example, you've seen coffee manufacturers going to source from farmers who are giving a fair compensation for their work, and suddenly consumers now who were not buying your brand are now actually buying your brand. So then you really start to create opportunity to address new target groups and other groups of consumers that were in the past not considering your brand. And if you go up on the ladder, you can even think about sustainability as part of a complete business model where you're producing in a sustainable way, where you transporting it in a sustainable way, where you're selling it in a way that is sustainable and good for the planet, and where everything from a cost as well as from a selling and consumer side works good for you. I think that Patagonia, this fashion brand, is, for example, a good example. So we've seen. I think we see actually most bigger communities, bigger companies going from a way of avoiding risks all the way to leveraging sustainability as an opportunity to grow your own business. And that, I think, is a good thing where we can still help companies to become better in.
Great. So from what you're saying, is it more about doing this at a brand level rather than at a corporate level so that it resonates more with consumers?
That's right. That's very right. In the past, this was communicated at a corporate level, mostly to satisfy shareholders and other more professional people that are relevant for you as a company, and it was less communicated in a way where it would directly address consumer needs. First of all, because the communication at a corporate level doesn't always reach consumers, and secondly, as we discussed a few minutes ago, we're already discussing, if it's not communicated in relationship to the brand itself, it simply doesn't work for consumers in relationship to their buying behavior. So again, in most food and beverage, for most food and beverage manufacturers, it holds that they produce products under many different brands that have different profiles too. If you look at the beer industry, most large beer producers have dozens, if not hundreds, of brands across the world, and they have different profiles. Some are about, some are connected to a region where water is important. So if a beer connected to a region where water is important, if that beer brand would communicate that they do good for the lakes and the seas that are where they are based at or near to, then that is a good message for that particular brand to attract consumers. While in other cases, where, for example, labor rights aren't managed so well, if you have a brand, let's say connected to some Latin American countries, if you would communicate that you're paying your people in a better way, that you're a fair company in that respect, you may attract new consumers for that particular brand, because doing good for people for a brand in that region works very well for that brand. So yes, a brand approach is where you can make the biggest difference.
And that's where the last part of the diagram comes in, so the citizenship, where you gain people's trust and sense.
Yes, absolutely, and where it's almost a requirement of a society, and where if you would operate in that particular way, you would get much closer to consumers and they would trust you at a much higher level, which makes your brand become a partner for them rather than one of the more distant brands. So citizenship is your ultimate goal, where you do everything well with regard to consumers who may also be, for example, your employees and so forth. So if it's all working well, you're getting the most out of your brand, and actually you sustain a much longer term future for your brand.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. So we'll turn all of this into a blog, and hopefully we'll get some comments on it in the comment section below as well, which will be great. And then you can answer them, Pieter.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.